We're here having Liz from Korean Association, Hallyu. And could you introduce yourself real quick and tell us what your function and what your company does?
Sure. So my name is Liz Shinhwa Yoon from South Korea originally, and I have Hallyu Korea Association. It is a Korean culture association based in Lausanne, and this is the only cultural association running by Korean person in Switzerland.
That's actually cool.
And we are basically to promote the Korean culture and then share with the Swiss people what is this all about, how we can actually adopt this to the other Swiss environment.
Since we're here at Bern, we both have a booth, and you want to promote Korean culture and we want to promote digitalization. So I want to ask you, how does it impact your industry, and what is it making it easier?
Sure. So when people think about the other culture or the other different ethnic groups, things, it's not really easily think about the other digitalization. However, Korea is very advanced to the other ICT, information communication and telecommunication. So because of my background, I was working at Samsung Electronics for 16 years for semiconductor marketing. I brought more technical aspects to cultural things and also something with the other hardware. So that's why I actually introduced photo booth machine from Korea, which meets very strong Korean hardware with cultural edge software in here. So basically, digitalization makes the culture spread much easier, faster, and shareable. In that way, we could actually share with all this kind of Korean culture things with the youngsters and then MZ generation via social media easily. Before, we had to always meet in person, but now, no need.
And when you came here and introduced this whole stuff, was it hard? Did it had any challenges that you had to do while you were presenting it?
Definitely. Because this is not very visible or tangible. People rather feel comfortable with the analog things. And people get bored very easily with things which is not very fun and interesting. So you got to be always up to date and what people want and how we can actually make it balance with the analog traditional with a bit sort of modern and digital aspects. It's going to be very difficult to drastically only move on to the other digital. Under the circumstances, all the AI and then the other digitalization era, people still look for the other very humane and analog things. And that actually values more nowadays. That's why I try to make it balanced, but also at the same time, it should not make people bored.
You already said people wanted it digitally, but also analog. Do you think that everything is a bit more digital now, that people might have a negative reaction to it, or don't want to interact with Korean culture anymore?
That's possible, because those who just want to stay at their comfort zone or do not want to seek for the other new things, or if it comes to the audience or the other newcomers as too digital, of course it could actually have a negative or the other a bit sort of a reactive feedback. However, I definitely think there are pros, like a positive aspect. So let me take one example. One K-pop group called the Big Ocean. So they are a hearing impaired group. So they actually dance and sing by the vibration and the rhythm. When you look at their sort of choreography or dancing, it is just like the other, K-pop idol stars. In fact, they were invited to United Nations ITU for AI conference last year and this year as well. So this is a really good example of how digital actually meet with this kind of, how do I say, more sort of humanity or sort of disabled or more inclusive. So there are definitely competitive advantage of this kind of digital things.
When you mentioned Big Ocean, I actually kind of know them. I follow them on Instagram and stuff, and I also saw that they had a lot of concerts already, and they were also here in Switzerland.
Exactly.
So you can also see from that how digitalization and Korean culture also already impacted us here in Switzerland.
Totally. So in Korea, they are getting to be popular or to be sort of a known, or people are starting to aware of However, in Switzerland or European countries really appreciate, what they are actually doing. So it was started with ITU, the AI, conference, but then other events like Polymanga and etc. They were invited. So several events and then even separate concert they did it in Switzerland, which is very phenomenal and then very unique. In Korea, they wouldn't do this much actually. So in this country, even the last in the population of the other 9 million, and they've done quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you already pretty much said everything, I think. But like, I wanted to know also, like, what's your personal opinion? What do you think about digitalization and how like it affects our future and stuff we do like daily?
Although I'm very much from the sort of tech-savvy backgrounds from the corporate career-wise, I'm not a huge fan of digital, actually. However, I see clearly the advantages out of it. So I'm a huge fan of this convergence, the brick and model for the business. It's always on and offline together. And our daily life, I want to sort of make it balanced well. So in that way, we can have more synergies. So for example, the photo booth that I brought from Korea to Switzerland, which is the one and only. It's called the Life for Cuts. We still have a print out. Like I give something tangible and visible to the other customer, but then with the little QR code on the bottom, you can immediately scan that and then download the video and images. So this is a very good example of how this, digital and analog could meet together and then make more synergies. So for those elderly or youngsters, they enjoy with this printout. But then the MZ and our youth, generation, they are rather for the digital version, so they can share it with social media immediately.
I think I also took a picture like in the photo booth once, and it was a very cool experience because I have both digital and in print, and like it's so fun because like you have something on your phone you can just share around on social media, but also like hang it up on your wall in your room and like have it memories. I think that's really cool.
I'd like to just add one more thing on that. When I was running this little photo booth shop in Flong, Lausanne, I had a very touching and sort of humane experience. One girl actually brought her grandmother. Almost she couldn't walk properly, and I could see that clearly she was not in a good condition, but she wanted to leave a good memory with her. So the moment she was coming into our shop till they left, they were laughing each other and then trying this and that, the accessories and the props. It was a very good memory. And then it was the first time for this grandmother to look at this digital version of the video, 10 seconds of video and images. She was almost cried. And I was, wow, this is clearly what I can do more for including the disabled or elderly group who do not have much access for this digital world. Yeah, so that was a very much rewarding moment for me.
Thank you so much for being here and having time with me for this interview. Thank you so much. Do you have any closing words or?
So when I decided to come this BEA exhibition all the way from Lausanne, I was quite hesitating because this is more for agricultural and then the cows and maybe the wine tasting, etc. But then I've been thinking, okay, what is the motto for this agricultural world? It is harvest. So I also wanted to be sort of a cultural bridge between Switzerland and Korea, and we actually get something. Harvesting in this cultural world in the soil of Switzerland. So there is rather common things in here, and I wanted to bring a little bit different kind of vibe for this exhibitions. And thank you for inviting me here.